Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. This is What If Tanjiro was training from the beginning, or was trained from the beginning, one of those titles. Now, I will admit this will be a little bit shorter than normal, just because this is an idea I wanted to do, but honestly, I don't think I can stretch it out to like 40 minutes, at least not without being like super duper repetitive and stuff like that, because there's a lot of things that are going to change because of this, and a lot of things that are going to be pretty interesting, I feel personally. So it's gonna be more of a faster paced video than normal. Now, with that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Now, Tanjiro Kamado, well, from the very start of the series, isn't where we're actually going to necessarily begin. Tanjiro's real journey would begin when his father is still alive and when we're kind of still progressing through his childhood. Now, this is when Tanjiro would actually start learning various things. He would actually be taught by his father various kind of versions of the Hinokami Kagura, excuse me. He would learn a lot about it, right? What's going on with it, what's happening with it, and he would also be taught by his father how to defend himself, right? And these are things his father could truly have taught him when at a very young age. Now, I will admit, he would have had really no reason to do this, for the most part, but at the same time, maybe he comes up with kind of a circumstantial thing where he decides, all right, you know what? I should teach my son how to defend himself and do certain things. So that's what he ends up doing. He ends up teaching Tanjiro actually the basic version of utilizing the breathing techniques, because let's be honest, he's definitely utilizing it to a certain extent. And then also on top of that, he teaches him more about the Hinokami Kagura, and he's going to teach him more about that as well. But with that said, that's not the only thing he would be teaching Tanjiro. I think he would probably teach him basic usage of various weapons. We saw him absolutely destroy a bear with just an axe. So I could definitely see him being like, okay, I'm going to utilize, or I'm going to help you like learn how to, use a sword, or utilize this, utilize that. So I would assume that's kind of the same idea. Like, we're probably going to get something very similar where he's basically doing just that, and he's basically teaching him how to utilize, maybe a simple sword or simple axe and stuff along those lines. Now, with him teaching Tanjiro those things, teaching him the basics of swordsmanship, and teaching him the basics of doing various things, this puts Tanjiro in a place that is a lot greater than normal. Like, his base, like, kind of ability is way different. His speed, his strength, all that stuff also will be heightened by the time that we get to the original start of Demon Slayer. Now, as we get to the original start of Demon Slayer, everything would go exactly the same. It's not like he's going to stay home and start squabbing with Muzan, right? These are things that aren't going to happen. So he leaves, heads back, sees his sister, tries to save her, and even goes and faces off with Giyu. Now, this time around, he would be in even better spot to actually take on Giyu, because normally he like tries to do the whole axe thing, but maybe he actually decides to clash with Giyu. And when he does this, Giyu's like, whoa, wait, he actually can do something here. He can actually move a little bit, which he realizes like the kid actually has experience wielding a weapon. Now, Giyu outclasses him like by a mile. Like, it's not a close fight by any means, but at the same time, he still sees the potential in him. Like, he's like, whoa, okay, so you definitely have potential here. Like, you could definitely fight. You could definitely, do your thing and go head to head with me a little bit. But at the same time, he also knows, like, all right, well, even though he shows promise right now, and he shows some like promise here, it doesn't mean that he's like he's like some super powerful this or that. Like, he's just not, right? He's just not. But he's pretty strong. Like, there's no way around the fact that he is pretty strong. Like, he's pretty impressive overall. So that right there is the truth. So of course Tanjiro is like, okay, well, like, I'm gonna stop you from hurting my sister, whatever he normally does. and he ends up stopping him briefly. Now, it doesn't mean it's like permanent, because obviously his sister and all that stuff she's a demon. So this is when Giyu would do exactly what he does normally. He sends him off to Urokodaki. Now, when he arrives and he faces off with a temple demon, this is the first time that Urokodaki is able to see what he's actually made of, because Tanjiro begins to actually utilize some of the like techniques and also some of the characteristics of utilizing sun breathing. And in doing so, he is showing Urokodaki, who's watching from afar, that he is no beginner. Like, he is not a beginner, not even close, and he's a lot better than what anybody would have expected. So when the temple demon is eventually defeated via the sunlight or along those lines, he would then now be ready to face off with the training that Urokodaki is going to send him through. And that would be with water breathing, right? Nothing's going to change in that regard. Like, he's still going to train, still going to learn more about water breathing, but Urokodaki is going to talk about how his style of fighting seems to be very similar to what he's heard about sun breathing. And these are things that are going to be very interesting for Tanjiro, because Tanjiro's like, well, there were these things that my father taught me how to utilize, and how to utilize, you know, like these kind of breathing techniques and so on and so forth. And as he's basically learning these things, this is when he kind of figures out like kind of what's going on, at least to an extent. He learns about like what's happening, or Urokodaki kind of learns like about just this entire scenario, learns about that Tanjiro's like abilities, his strength and all that stuff is like comes from a long training session, or a long like scenario of his ability to really face off with greater opponents. Like, his ability is pretty insane when you put it into perspective. And Tanjiro's like genuine ability to like fight and all that stuff is at a pretty high level already, at least high enough to where his training is done in like half the time, if not less. Now, it doesn't mean that Tanjiro is going to go off and immediately go to the final selection and get in early or anything like that. I don't think that would really happen, but I do believe that Urokodaki would start teaching him even more, right? Even more than he already taught him in the first place. Maybe even learning total concentration breathing constant, or maybe even taking like basically an entire year to learn about basically his capability or his capabilities as a sun breather. Now, this is something that Tanjiro would want to tap into. He wouldn't know a ton, and Urokodaki wouldn't know a ton either, but tapping into sun breathing this early, like drastically early, is going to be so helpful. I mean, he already tapped into it to a certain extent, so his ability to tap even further into sun breathing and tap into kind of all of these things even more, it seems as if this makes a pretty crazy kind of difference in the whole grand scheme of things. Tanjiro's ability to tap into sun breathing allows him to legitimately do some insane things, and that would include slaying every single demon in the final selection, because a trained first Tanjiro, or someone who basically was trained from the beginning instead of just, you know, training at like the age of like 14, 15 or something like that, he actually started off like way earlier, like, you know, like 8 years old or something like that, really young. Obviously he wouldn't be able to like retain everything, but like the simple things will always give you such a big jump start, and that allowed him to slay through the entire final selection. His training would be even more beneficial, and then eventually a lot of his other quests and other things that he kind of gets into are very straightforward, very easy as well. And that would include like the fight with the swamp demon. That would include the eventual fight against Susumaru and Yahaba, which, by the way, I truly believe that Tanjiro's ability to see kind of like the arrows and stuff like that and the various things would be a lot crazier. Like, I think he would be able to see it without even help of Yushiro. Normally Yushiro would need to help him and stuff like that, but I don't think that would really be the case this time around. I truly believe Yushiro wouldn't necessarily need to help Tanjiro. I honestly I could see or foresee him actually helping to an even larger degree in terms of like him being able to kind of just see things for himself, like not even think about or worry about anything else along the lines of like, oh, he doesn't know, he can't see it, or he's at a disadvantage. That wouldn't be the case. I don't think Tanjiro would be at a disadvantage by any means. Obviously, the things with Nezuko, learning about, you know, a possible cure, all that stuff would still happen. And, well, let's just say a lot of these earlier fights would be easier. I mean, a face-off with Kyogai, I mean, that would be a lot easier than normal. A fight that Tanjiro already has won would be a lot simpler. Maybe even showing off a little bit of that sun breathing, kind of figuring out and learning more of the styles and the kind of forms he could truly utilize in the acts of sun breathing itself. And when he is able to show this off, let's just say Kyogai starts seeing through the eyes of Muzan himself, because he's like, oh my goodness, this is not happening. This is not happening. This is not what is going on. There's no way this is existing. There's no way someone like this is this powerful. There's no way someone is this freaking strong. But the crazy part is, it's not from this like insane out of nowhere power or power up that we would give him. No, it's legitimately because Tanjiro learned from his father and was trained a lot sooner than normal. And him doing this just really elevated his game to a totally different level. Like, elevated it to a level that a lot of these people are in, or a lot of these demons are in pretty much disbelief about the kind of level or the strength that he's really portraying, and the strength that he's really able to utilize in the grand scheme of things. Now, after the defeat of like Kyogai and stuff like that, and eventually obviously meeting Inosuke, and that little squabble would happen a lot easier, I want to just skip to the potential fight against, or the, not potential, but the fight with Rui, right? Initially, or normally, Tanjiro loses this fight, but he does awaken his ability to utilize the Hinokami Kagura. Now, his ability to utilize this would be a lot sooner, and honestly would probably show up right out of the gates. So he'd be able to utilize sun breathing right out the gates to an even higher degree, pushing his body past its limits and pushing himself to a point of, yes, exhaustion, but to a point that he knows he needs to be able to push himself to. And normally, yes, he loses this fight. And would the training initially be enough to push him to defeat Rui, especially with Rui's like little tricks and stuff that he gets into? Maybe not. But there's one thing that I could truly see happening with Tanjiro here in this circumstance. That one thing would be the awakening of a Demon Slayer mark. I truly believe that there's the potential here to awaken it, since he already would have a good grasp on sun breathing, like, or at least a way better grasp than he would have in this moment. I mean, legitimately, he knew basically nothing about it. He kind of was looking on the, or like working on it on the fly. So this time around, he has a lot more control over it. I can see him somehow awakening it, like somehow against Rui, actually awakening it. Now, is there a potential where it doesn't happen? Sure. I honestly believe Tanjiro most likely would end up winning this fight anyways, but I truly believe having an earlier Demon Slayer mark Tanjiro here is definitely a possibility against someone like Rui, who is, I mean, yes, he's not the strongest thing, or not the strongest person ever, but this is, in a technicality, still a weaker Tanjiro from when he originally awakened it. And I can see him in an earlier fight, right, which pushed Rui into a higher kind of bar of strength earlier on, thinking to himself that he has no backup, he has no way out, he has no way to really like stop this from happening, and it pushes his body past its limits, and not only utilizing more forms of sun breathing, but awakening his Demon Slayer mark and slicing through Rui. And as well, the other Demon Slayers would eventually arrive, they would see no demon there, because Tanjiro would have defeated them, or defeated him, turning toward Giyu Tomioka, the same person that he's basically been idolizing and seeing and all this stuff, and really weren't, like, you know, hearing about quite a bit every so often. I mean, this would lead him to turning to him And Giyu would see the Demon Slayer mark on his face as Tanjiro would just pass out. Like, he would be out cold, and basically it would be done, right? The whole Demon Slayer mark situation would stop, and it would be done. But this is a shock to everybody. And this would lead them to heading back to the Butterfly Mansion, and obviously would lead to a lot of questions. Yes, initially they're like, well, we can't let Nezuko and Tanjiro live because of blah, blah, blah. You know, they're one of them's a demon and all this stuff. But after hearing not only that Urokodaki, Giyu, and all, and those people have the back of Tanjiro, but they also learn that Tanjiro has awakened his Demon Slayer mark. And in doing so, has essentially opened the gateway for the other Demon Slayers to do so as well. So basically, he's more useful, far more useful alive than he is dead. And last thing that basically they would ever think of is to end Nezuko and try to keep Tanjiro around, not expecting him to lash out and want blood for his sister, like want to take out everyone else for the kind of ending of his sister. He would be like, oh, I'm not helping you, I'm not doing any of those things, like I would fight you before doing that, right? So these are things that obviously were put into consideration. So they would decide, okay, let's keep him around, let's make sure that he's fine, he's not hurt, he's not any of these things. And eventually they would decide on keeping him around, keeping Nezuko around, and having Tanjiro start training with various other Hashira in hopes of getting them to awaken their Demon Slayer mark, believing that this is the moment, this is the time to really shift things up. And this is where we lead to another big change, which would be during the whole Mugen train. Now, the change itself definitely isn't with Enmu. I mean, shout out to Enmu, but Enmu's kind of a joke here. I mean, yes, they do get put to sleep. Yes, they have to push through that whole boundary. But really, what changes here after the defeat of Enmu from Tanjiro and Inosuke would be the fight with Akaza. Because Tanjiro would be able to somewhat keep up here. I mean, this is a stronger Tanjiro. And frankly, I could see Akaza having some sort of enjoyment in this fight. Yes, his journey or his mission was to end Tanjiro. But sometimes that kind of want and desire to just clash and fight and go at it kind of overwhelms Akaza. And I can see that happening in this regard. So having Tanjiro and Rengoku fight alongside each other isn't too far-fetched, and this would even allow Tanjiro to awaken his Demon Slayer mark once again and clash with Akaza as well, and with Rengoku right beside him, with Rengoku pushing himself past his own limits. Who's to say he wouldn't awaken his Demon Slayer mark right here and right now, allowing both of them to keep up a lot better. Now, yes, they would keep up a lot better, but this version of Tanjiro is not as strong as, our endgame Tanjiro, at least not yet. Like, he's going to be. He's probably not too far off at this point, especially after the extra training and all this other stuff, right? He's definitely not that far off, but he's not to that degree. But Rengoku and Tanjiro, both with Demon Slayer marks, and they're both with the sole idea of waiting for the sun to rise. This is something that I could see them actually getting done, like genuinely getting done. But at a bare minimum, Rengoku would have a far greater chance at actually living here than his normal chances of actually living. I don't see Akaza actually losing necessarily. Like, I don't think he dies here, but I also foresee kind of Rengoku living here because of the Demon Slayer mark, because of Tanjiro's effect in terms of his strength and all the above. These are things that help Rengoku and Tanjiro during the fight with Akaza, having all of them live. And let's be honest, when Akaza would run away, leave, and survive from the sun, I mean, let's be honest, Muzan is not going to be happy, like, at all. Muzan's going to be pissed because at the end of the day, Muzan believes that they are nothing, that all these people, they're nothing, they're disgusting, they're this, they're that. And he believes that they should be basically smashed at their feet, right? They should be legitimately nothing at all. But it's proof that they can keep up and proof that they have a chance when you have someone like Akaza or Akaza kind of failing and Tanjiro and Rengoku actually living. And that right there would obviously piss off Muzan. Like, Muzan would be so mad about this. I mean, he would be extremely angry about them actually living, extremely angry about all of these things, because I mean, at the end of the day, he would not want Tanjiro and them to obviously live. Like, he's thinking to himself, like, there's no way that not only did you fail, right? Did you not end Tanjiro, but you also allowed another Hashira to live. Like, that right there is inexcusable. That is ridiculous. And that's the way, obviously, that's the way, Muzan thinks. Like, Muzan's genuinely thinking these things. Like, nah, like, this is crazy. Like, you really allowed them. Like, you really allowed this. You allowed this to happen, and you allowed, them to get away. You allowed them to do this or do that and all this stuff. And frankly, he is pissed about it. I mean, he is angry about it. He is angry that they allowed this to happen, and he is angry that somehow these two aren't dead. They're not gone. They're not dealt with, and they're going to be issues now for a while. And frankly, Muzan knows that to be a fact, because they are going to be issues. They are going to be like issues and hard to deal with, because now that Rengoku has awakened his Demon Slayer mark, I mean, it's a domino effect for the other Demon Slayers. And yes, Tanjiro would also have somebody to train with, someone to prepare with, making it a lot easier for him to learn more about sun breathing via, the Rengoku family, stuff like that. And obviously still training and preparing and all the above. And yeah, this would be a different breed of Tanjiro. His ability now would be pretty close to the end game Tanjiro. Now, outside of, some of the aspects that Tanjiro has in terms of powers, like the see-through world and stuff like that, obviously those things aren't going to show up like here and now, mostly because, well, Tanjiro hasn't really kind of found a need, I would say. More like he hasn't found like an actual pushing or breaking point to get him to that. Yes, Akaza probably was pretty close to do that, or to doing that, but overall he wasn't able to get to that singular point. Wasn't able to push himself to that point. It wasn't really thinking about it either, specifically, but eventually he will. He will get to that point. Eventually he will be able to up his game even further. But we all know that, like, Tanjiro's abilities will continue to enhance, and during this time where he's training and preparing, they enhance quite a bit, making it so when Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu head off to the entertainment district, a fight with Gyutaro and Daki is a lot easier for the group of them, especially when you have Nezuko evolve into her own, like, new state. And also, by the way, Tengen evolves into his new state with the Demon Slayer mark, because at this point we are legitimately handing people Demon Slayer marks, because that is basically what happens. It's all a domino effect in terms of Demon Slayer marks, and I could see that happening, right? Tengen getting his Demon Slayer mark. Now, it is hit or miss with the idea of, like, would he still decide to retire? Probably, because his whole thing was that he decided to retire because his wives wanted him to, and that this would be his last mission and stuff along those lines. So that would most likely still happen. Tanjiro would probably still have that scenario occur, where you literally have, obviously, you would have, Tengen basically go off and be like, okay, well, I'll help out, train people and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm not going to do anything else. Like, I'm just going to help train. I'm not going to be a demon slayer. I'm just going to be, well, you know, me. I'm just going to be the flashy Tengen, whatever. And yeah, so that would then lead us to Tanjiro training more, recovering more within the Butterfly Mansion. Obviously, after the entertainment district, all that stuff that ensued. And we would still get a good grasp on the Swordsmith's village, because that whole arc would go very similar, if not just better than normal. We would still have like, you know, various awakenings, or we would have various awakenings of the Demon Slayer mark. And this progression of the Demon Slayers would just make it very, very clear to Muzan that it's either now or never. Like, these people, if they're getting this powerful, he either needs to wait another 1,000 years or wait another 100, 200, whatever years, or he needs to take them out now. And well, let's just say at the end of this fight, at the end of defeating Hantengu and all this stuff, let's just say the awakening of Nezuko conquering the sun is something that throws Muzan into a fit. And obviously this would lead us to training, the Hashira training. Tanjiro getting even stronger, by the way, because this is something that he's perfecting, sun breathing, perfecting all of the stuff that he's been learning, and also pushing his body beyond belief and beyond manner, to the point where he is genuinely Hashira level. Like, this is, you might as well put him as the sun breathing Hashira. Like, that is what he is right now. Yes, he defeated Rui. Yes, he did all this other stuff. So really putting him as the sun breathing Hashira is not too far-fetched by any means necessary. And obviously, when we get to the Infinity Castle, when eventually this fight would start kind of boiling up, we would have Akaza once again facing off with Tanjiro. But not only Tanjiro, would be Rengoku and possibly Giyu Tomioka, because a 3 versus 1 with all 3 of them together could definitely happen. But for the sake of like story and stuff, I could potentially see it just being Tanjiro and Rengoku. And this would make sense just along the lines of like, they fought already. This is their get back. This is their next fight, their next chance. And this fight would go a lot differently, because Rengoku and Tanjiro would be beyond more prepared for a fight like this. But for the, you know, I honestly believe that Tanjiro at this point would be stronger than Tanjiro in the original version at this point. And his ability, his just entire arsenal of sun breathing makes Akaza look very, very stupid, because he thought this was just a weak kid, but he's not. And 2 people that awakened the Demon Slayer mark already, and 2 people that have been training like hell since the last time they fought, training like absolute monsters since the last time these 2 went at it, and the last time these 2 kind of faced off with each other. It's pretty damn obvious that eventually these 2, Rengoku and Tanjiro, would come out on top. But it would still take Tanjiro learning some pretty crazy things, aka the transparent world, which I might have called the see-through world. I don't think that's what we call it. I don't know why I called it that. Well, you know, it's fine. I mean, you guys know what I meant, right? We probably would still get, right, your transparent world Tanjiro, right? He would unlock that ability. It would completely erase his presence, make it so that, like, you know, you can't even sense it via fighting spirit and stuff. Like, all that malice and killing intent would literally be gone. So his ability would be able to basically strike down Akaza. And also, I could see Rengoku possibly learning this ability. Kind of fits him perfectly, because Tanjiro is kind of like the same type of person as Rengoku, where they, like, you know, they really love people. They really love to protect people. They are like kind, they're caring, all this stuff. So hiding the killing intent is something I could see Rengoku learning as well, to an extent. It wouldn't take away from Tanjiro's ability. Like, his strength is beyond, at this point, Rengoku's. But I could see it happening where both of them do it, and both of them are able to slice the neck off of Akaza at the same time. And yeah, that would be an insane ending to that fight, be a crazy one. And they would do their best to try to head off to, like, help where they can. But it would most likely lead them to facing off with Muzan. And I think we can all agree that this fight will go exactly the same, if not better, in the favor of the Demon Slayers, with a Tanjiro that is far stronger because he trained a lot sooner, aka was training from the very beginning. And that right there allowed for Tanjiro to get a jump head start on everything that he already has done. Because I did talk about this before. This is kind of like making Tanjiro a prodigy. But frankly, there's an argument to be made that he is a prodigy. And giving a prodigy a chance to learn and build a foundation of what you're able to do, the strength you're able to utilize, and the powers you're able to conduct, it seems as if Tanjiro will end up being even stronger than normal. So defeating Muzan in this way, well, it could be at a even more insane version of Tanjiro, and the way he moves and the way he fights and all that stuff would lead to the defeat of Muzan during the rise of the sun. But here's the thing. Eventually Tanjiro would get turned into a demon. Like, that does happen. So would he, be able to be turned back? Would all that stuff still happen? Most likely. But this version of Tanjiro would also have the possibility of being stronger. So if he is stronger, then oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Because that would be ridiculous. Like, Tanjiro as a demon, even more powerful, would be a pretty difficult thing for them to handle. I mean, they wouldn't have been able to defeat him anyways. I think this is a conversation people talk about, and it's funny because at the end of the story, Giyu brings up the fact, and he probably would as well in this, bring up the fact that they have to chop his head off. Guess what? He's immune to the sun, aka he's immune to that specifically too. So that just both coincides. And Tanjiro would definitely have to be cured the same way he was in the original. And could I see it happening? Yeah, I could see it still happening. I think having Rengoku around and all these other people around too help with that push away from Muzan's evil intent. And eventually Tanjiro will be cured, and Tanjiro would be there to see what happened in it all, and see as Muzan would be gone and the demons would be vanquished. And it's all mainly because of the fact that Tanjiro's father and the whole kind of situation started up a lot sooner and made things a lot better in the regard of actually, preparing Tanjiro for a fight or a war that, let's be honest, Tanjiro's father probably didn't think too much about, thinking that his family could live peacefully, having no idea that one day the king of all demons would eventually show up and eliminate and change his family forever. But that is the end of this story, the end of what if Tanjiro was training from the beginning or trained from the start. I haven't decided yet, probably trained from the beginning. Now, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know this was a little bit shorter. I know it's still like 30 something minutes, but it was going to be a little bit shorter because it was mostly like I just wanted to break things down, talk about them quickly, because this is an idea that I thought about too a while back, and I was like, do I want to do it? It's gonna be a short story, whatever. But this new way of doing things allowed me to do like a 30-minute video, but still kind of have like, pretty much the entire story in the video itself. Now, with that said, though, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, show some love, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.